In physics, at some level, it is commonly accepted that a particle is a vibration of a field. Why is this characteristic overlooked when it comes to exploring the physics of matter? In this video, I attempt to show the world that, as would be expected, classical physics emerges from the quantum world. Inertial mass can simply be attributed to the physical properties of particles. In this video, we examine the properties of the proton. In this video, we'll show how inertial mass emerges from the properties of the proton. The Higgs boson is nothing more than a misinterpretation of results at the LHC. The Copenhagen interpretation is wrong. Quantum mechanics, spouted as the most successful theory ever, is wrong. The electromagnetic field is not hidden from us. Why do we imagine that there are 16 other fields that we cannot see? The photon does not exist. There are numerous presentations that show that this to be true. Check out Chris the Brain in my links. There are no bosons. Quarks are fragments of oscillations, not particles. And the list goes on. Particle definition: the smallest vibration of a quantum field. A better description of a vibration is an oscillation. An oscillation has properties that change depending on the velocity of the oscillation. Lorentz factor, also known as gamma factor, when applied to a moving object, calculates time dilation. Time dilation slows observed elapsed time for a moving object. Time slows for the observed object. If time slows, then observed oscillations per second subsequently increase. If oscillations per second increase, then energy stored in the proton increases. If the energy stored in the proton increases, then mass increases. There is the relativistic effect of mass increasing as velocity increasing. If the frequency of oscillation increases, the wavelength decreases. There is the relativistic effect of length contraction. Postulated properties of space and time with respect to light and matter. Mass shapes space and time. Therefore, space and time is something. To truly understand the properties of matter, then space and time must be considered as the field in which mass exists. The only field that makes itself readily known in physics is the electromagnetic field. Space and time is that electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field has E and H components. Mass shapes space and time because it utilizes energy in space and time. Planck length could be the wavelength of space and time. Velocity is equal to frequency times wavelength. The speed of space and time is what is commonly referred to as the speed of light. Light is a modulated travelling wave in space and time. The formula E is equal to h nu describes the energy equivalence for light. Matter is an oscillation and a resonant standing wave in space and time. If matter can be described as an oscillation, then Max Planck's formula E is equal to h nu can be modified to calculate the energy equivalence of matter. In this slide, a linear representation of a proton is depicted. Light is a travelling wave in space and time. Matter is a standing wave in space and time. It is postulated that matter consists of two oscillations, which gives rise to increased stability. Max Planck's formula, E is equal to h nu for light, is depicted. The postulated formula, E is equal to 2h nu for a proton and neutron oscillation, is depicted. In subsequent slides and posts, we show that E is equal to 2h nu can be mathematically substantiated. Calculation of frequency of oscillation using RMS radius. The current accepted radius of a proton is 0.84075 femtometers, accepted by CODATA. C is equal to F lambda. Lambda of the proton is equal to pi times the proton. Lambda of the proton is equal to 2.64129 times 10 to the minus 15 meters, which gives rise to the frequency of the proton at 1.13502 times 10 to the 23 Hertz. Armed with this, we can now look for the frequency mass equivalence. Physics does not change at the quantum level. Proof of the postulated model of the proton. Energy is equal to mc squared is equal to 2h nu. Frequency of the proton calculated using the accepted radius f proton is equal to 1.13502 times 10 to the 23 Hertz from the previous slide. The speed of light 2.99792.458 defined exact value. Planck's constant h 6.626070015 times 10 to the minus 34 defined exact value. The mass of the proton 1.67262192369 times 10 to the minus 27 kilograms. E is equal to mc squared, where m is equal to the mass of the proton. E is equal to 0.150328 times 10 to the minus 9 joules. E is equal to 2h nu, where nu is equal to the frequency of the proton oscillation. E is equal to 0.150412 times 10 to the minus 9 joules. This is incredibly close. It actually provides support for the accepted RMS proton radius. Properties of a moving proton. Lorentz factor and its effect on timing is a crucial factor completely overlooked in modern physics. E is equal to 2h nu is equal to mc squared, where nu is the frequency of oscillation of the proton, is shown to equate and prove that energy mass equivalence is proportionally related. The frequency of oscillation is true for matter, as is also true for light. Mass equivalence is dependent on frequency of oscillation for light. Mass equivalence is also dependent on frequency of oscillation for matter. In this slide, the frequency of oscillation of the proton is calculated using the accurately known mass of the proton instead of the proton radius. In this slide, it is shown that the relativistic effects of velocity can be directly attributed to the Lorentz factor, also known as gamma factor, applied to the oscillations of a moving particle. Here, the relativistic effects of mass increase and length contraction are shown to emerge at a quantum level. Inertial mass is also shown to be more intuitive using the proposed model. In this slide, an earthbound proton with an earthbound mass adequately show the principle of inertial mass. For those that are not aware, at relativistic speeds, the formula for kinetic energy at high velocities, kinetic energy is equal to Lorentz factor, also referred to as gamma factor, minus 1, times the rest mass of the proton times the speed of light squared, must be used. The usual formula for kinetic energy, E is equal to half mv squared, is shown to be adequate at very low velocities only. Inertial mass is shown to be attributed to the fact that Lorentz factor, which describes the observed and well understood effect of time dilation on a moving object. As observed time slows for the moving object, the observed frequency of oscillation of the observed proton increases, giving rise to inertial mass. There is no requirement for anything other than the electromagnetic field, which is space and time itself. There is no Higgs boson. There is no Higgs field. This slide possibly describes what is the postulated Higgs mechanism, but without the complicated Higgs boson or Higgs field. The world's largest and most expensive experiment in the world has got it wrong again. The Large Hadron Collider must hold themselves accountable to this incorrect conclusion of the existence of the Higgs boson and cannot be allowed to proceed with their plans for a larger collider when it should be obvious that they cannot use the one they have. Conclusions. The postulated model of the proton debunks the Copenhagen interpretation. Classical physics emerges from the quantum world. Only one field is necessary to describe the quantum world. Why would we invent 16 other fields that we have no means to detect? A proton is an oscillation with a horizontally polarized E field. A proton's E and H fields are 180 degrees out of phase. A neutron is an oscillation with a horizontally polarized H field. A neutron's E and H fields are in phase. Quarks are fragments of oscillations that were protons and neutrons. Chromodynamics is nothing more than a mathematical construct that attempts to apply color charge to the cleaves at the points of shear when a proton or a neutron is collided. Refer to my channel for other insights into physics, including quantum gravity. Thank you for watching.